Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all who are listening. Thank you for joining. This is Mark Sauls from OpsDel3000, and today I've got Dr. Maria Athanasiou. She is a medical doctor and occupational health physician who I've known for a good many years. Today, our topic, we've got several topics to cover today. It's on the Game Changer episode podcast, where we look at behaviors, mindsets, and certain things people do in order to change their own game and change the lives of the people that they meet. So welcome, Maria. Thank you for joining. It's been a long time coming. We've had a few technical issues, so we'll get straight into the podcast. Maria,
Thank you very much for inviting me.
thank you very much. My first question to you is, in your occupation as a medical doctor, where did that start?
Well, that started back in 2008, I believe. Yeah, when I finished with my medical training and in the university, and then I joined my specialty training straight afterwards. So it has been a long journey, but definitely a very rewarding one.
Where did you do your training, Maria? Was that in the UK or was it outside?
Apparently, my training took place in my birth country, which is Greece, and in Athens in particular. So I had my basic medical training back in Athens, and my specialty training again in Athens.
Okay. And in terms of, being a woman, what's it like in Greece going into the medical profession?
Believe it or not, although we believe that Greece has become a very civilized and progressive country, yes, I wouldn't say that it was bad as an experience, but still there is some prejudice when it comes to being a woman in the battlefield of the A&E in decision making, just by the way you are treated by the patients and their relatives, even by the superior, the senior doctors. It's kind of challenge, but all of us have been through this challenge, and all of us, I mean all the women doctors, have overcome this
Yeah.
successfully, I'm guessing.
And what does it take to overcome that? Is it more of a political battle? Is it war of words? Is it something you have to do mentally to overcome this every day?
Well, I think that still, when it comes to women's rights, some things in some things we still need to be very determined and to not to impose our presence in the professional landscape, but more we need to prove even more than men, okay, that we deserve to be here. That was the case back in 2009 when I started my specialty training. Okay, apparently because of my character, my qualities. Okay, it was easy for me, but I'm not going to lie. It was very challenging. So I managed to have very good relationship with everyone, but okay, not with everyone. But on the other hand, I needed to put, boundaries, and it was very difficult because people just rely on they are preoccupied, okay, and they rely on what they had been used to instead of deal with what you have in front of you.
Yeah.
That was really challenging. But that was part of the game. I treated this as part of the game, and for me, it worked. So I had already poured my plan. So I knew that I just needed to be patient for that period of time until I had completed my specialty training. And then I knew that the way forward was to go abroad to build my career. And here I am.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for listening and joining this podcast. My name is Mark Sauls from OpsDel3000, and I have produced a course that will change your leadership journey and take you towards success in a much more holistic way. My course gives you practical applications of the different leadership principles and also gives you an experience of journaling your journey so that you can reflect upon it and make adjustments as you go along. There are many millions of leadership courses out there. Mine is based on the successes of very successful leaders and also the hardships that they came across. It also documents my own leadership experience, my journey from the shop floor into a senior leadership position, the mistakes I made, the learnings that I took from those mistakes, and the superpowers that I developed from them. I say superpowers because they're really simple, but they are absolutely life-changing in terms of your leadership journey. So I do encourage you to take the course, complete it, and get your certification at the end of it. Now, I'm also the author of 2 books, So Many Ways to Get What You Want and The Traits of Successful Leaders. These 2 books not only give you the tools for becoming a successful leader, but they also go into great depth in terms of influence and persuasion, which is a much overlooked tool in the leadership realm. Now, thank you for listening. Please do take the opportunity to read the books and do the course. Now let's get back to the podcast. Yeah. So, you mentioned patience there, and having a plan. When you talk about having certain qualities that made it not easy, but helped you get through those difficult times, were these qualities that you say are just inherent in yourself, or were there things you needed to learn to overcome those challenges?
Well, I believe that somebody needs definitely to be determined, to have made it clear to yourself what you want, where you are, and where you want to go. Okay, so for me that was very clear even before I had even started my my specialty training, and I was quite sharp with myself, not with the others, never with the others. So I didn't give any kind of favor to myself. I said that, okay, this is it, deal with it, and then move forward. No time for drama, no time for conflict. I tried to avoid conflict. It wasn't entirely successful, I can tell you. Yes, there are a few senior doctors that even now, because in the medical profession and in specific hospitals, for instance, we know each other and we recognize each other even in the future. Okay. Yeah. So we remember the people that we had conflict with. Yeah. Okay. And the people that we got along very well with.
Yeah.
It was very interesting. And I think that it has helped me to build resilience, to build resistance, because I think that resisting to the others is also important. Yeah. Putting boundaries, and of course, show respect and professionalism.
Yeah, it can be quite difficult to combine all those things because, you and me have both come from various different challenges in life in different places. And establishing boundaries with people can be quite difficult sometimes. Did you ever have any difficulties establishing boundaries with certain people?
Of course I had, and sometimes, these became very pronounced, up to the point that I needed to even to disagree openly with senior managements, even HR, one CEO. But on the other hand, I cannot take them as, the standard, because I have dealt with so nice people, I mean, who respect boundaries, who are encouraging their employees to put their boundaries. Yeah. So, yeah, you have the good example and then the example to follow and the example to avoid. Yeah. So you choose, and all of us would choose.
I've got 3 daughters. They're all grown up now. One of them, the last one, turned 18 just the other day, 24 and 25. And it's something you mentioned earlier in the podcast that it's difficult for women, and I can say this: it doesn't matter what country you're in. I'm from South Africa. I've lived in Zimbabwe. I've lived in the UK for nearly 27 years now, and I've noticed in all the different countries, even in the States, where I used to travel to periodically for work, that for women it's inherently difficult just because women are women. They have sometimes even more challenges than men have, to overcome. And companies have policies all over the world. There's equality and diversity policies, and I've exercised them many times in my managerial positions. Do you find that policy is an effective way of addressing this lack of equality and the challenges that women have to go through in their professions? Or is there something deeper than that that we need to be addressing?
Well, I think that it's a good point first that policies exist in many companies and many businesses, and also because of the legal frame in the vast majority of the countries. This is a positive thing. But on the other hand, I would say that it's a matter probably of culture, the culture that all of us, we have a cultural DNA, okay? And this is interpreted in the way that we behave towards the others, how we treat others, and how we perceive the others.
Yeah.
So this is the major factor, in my opinion, about how a woman feels in every kind of environment.
Yeah.
It's not that it's inherited. I wouldn't use the word inherited, but the cultural gap speaks volumes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm coming from a country where the cultural gap, the cultural habits, I would say, made it impossible for me to stay there. Okay. I came to the UK where I felt, welcome. But on the other hand, I didn't feel like being home. So that's why I needed to form a plan. Even as a woman, I felt, okay, as a professional, I felt appreciated, but still there is some prejudice. There are some posts, senior posts, that are going specifically only to men. We cannot ignore that. Yeah. But I cannot overgeneralize, okay? But it made me stronger. So the takeaway is that we should not focus on the situation that we are, we inherit, because you used the word inherited. Okay, but how we evolve this, how we revolutionize this. Yeah. Okay, we need to know where we want to go. That's to calibrate our cultural compass.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it's something I've come across in so many places, as I've mentioned, and I think what you mentioned there is quite important in terms of cultural DNA. I like to overcome challenges. If there's a boundary, I want to break it and I want to go through it, especially if it's going to do something good for other people. And in some of the workplaces that I've been at all over the world, in different places, not just in the UK, the way I found was effective for women to break through these barriers was for them to do what you said earlier. Sometimes there's a conflict that needs to be addressed. And despite how much you might try and avoid it, you need to speak up at some point and you need to address it. And, as unavoidable as it is, it's part of life and something that will help you grow. Has it become something that you find easier to do now that you've stood up for certain things and addressed them head on? Or do you still find it challenging when that happens?
I think I'm the wrong person to ask this kind of question, because I was always spot on and ready to address. I was able to put my boundaries, whether the others liked it or not. I was able to put my boundaries and stand up for my views. Of course, I know that we can all of us have different views. This is absolutely reasonable and normal. But not as a woman, but also as a person. Okay, I believe that you should have the freedom to choose. You should have the freedom to act. Okay, and from there and on, definitely, just to have the freedom, you should make sure that you have the respect, the level of respect to the others. Okay, so I guess that, long story short, this is it. And yeah, I believe that it's a wrong thing to tell me, for me to represent the person that at some point I needed to put boundaries or to stand up for what I believe. I always were doing this. I was always doing this, even as a kid, as far as I remember myself.
Yeah, for me it was a little bit different. I was a very quiet, reserved child who didn't really say much. Well, my parents might disagree with me there, but I think for me it was something I had to learn. I had to learn because sometimes it feels like I'm being overpowering or being aggressive or being over the top. But I've had to teach myself that everyone does have the right to stand up for themselves and speak out. And it doesn't really matter whether somebody agrees with you or doesn't like what you're saying, so long as you do it in a factual, respectful sort of way, which doesn't inflame the conflict even more. You can normally find a way to establish your boundaries. So I found some holes in policy in terms of equality and diversity. Like I said earlier, there are policies that exist in most companies. Sometimes people can reel them off to you by heart. The question is, does it actually get implemented in certain places? And you mentioned cultural DNA there. It sounds like a challenge. It sounds like something that we're going to need to address on a cultural level globally. That sounds like a big task to do. Where would the place you'd recommend starting be?
Well, because we are talking now about business, okay, and we're talking about the business landscape. Policies need and must exist, okay? Yeah. Policies need and must be followed, implemented, okay? And policies must and need to be implemented horizontally, which means that even the CEO is bound to the policy, even the employees are, the other employees are bound to the policies. So they are supposed to safeguard equality, diversity, inclusion, okay? And that's why there are some, the legal teams in HR. That's why there are occupational health. There is occupational health in HR because we need to implement this. It's not discretion. It's about, obligation. It's statutory. It's not what we want. This is my view. Yeah. And again, it is linked to the cultural forms. Even recently, I think it's very interesting. I read the book, the culture map, and I found myself so into the book.
Yes.
Yes, because I've dealt with I've worked in many countries, and I have dealt with many cultures. And, even the way we comply with the policies and with regulations speaks volumes about the culture in a business. They cannot, I was trying to convince a European client of mine, and apparently one of the very reputable European institutions, which means that they should lead by example. Yeah. Either the rules apply horizontally or you don't have rules. Yeah, you cannot have a director or a CEO doing whatever they want and be out of control. Yeah. And to try to control your employees. Yeah. It's very important that the rules apply to everyone. Yeah. Yeah, I firmly believe in that. Change starts at the top. It's some people that I've come across in various different walks of life in their businesses and organizations seem to have an unspoken idea that change must happen at the grassroots first and then move upwards. Now, there's we could talk about that for 5 days and probably still not come to the answer. But in my own view and in my own experience, I found that, it's like in your body. What starts off in your mind and the way you think usually spreads to the rest of your behavior. Things like depression and anxiety and, other illnesses, while these are really debilitating, a lot of it has, a mindset sort of aspect. And with the right guidance and the right coaching, you can move out of some of these conditions. I've struggled with mental, I've had mental challenges over various different years. And in getting the right help, I've managed to move myself into a more resourceful mindset, which helps us get somewhere. And I think likewise with company culture, when it comes to game changing in that equality and diversity aspect of things, where you say things need to apply horizontally,
I think that needs to start at the CEO. It needs to start at the head. It needs to start at the top levels. And when they lead by example and embed this in their daily behavior, in the way they talk and in their actions, and not just use policy as a tick box exercise, then we might see something change in this game. If you had any advice apart from what we've just spoken about now, for people that are higher than CEOs, people that actually come together to create these policies and these regulations on a governmental level, what do they need to do there in terms of their DNA culture to make sure that we get to where we need to in terms of equality and diversity and change the game?
I think they need to acknowledge that we live in a multicultural world. Okay, so we need to understand. They need to understand that it's not what they are used to be doing in their country. Okay, it's at some point we need to adjust. We need to level up.
Yeah.
Okay, and I don't know whether we have this type of maturity right now, globally, even, I would say.
Yeah.
Although I don't like, talking political, but I find that there is a lot of political immaturity all over the planet.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like a power game.
Yeah.
It looks like a power game and a minefield.
Yeah.
And apparently even the businesses, no matter the size, some businesses are very, very deeply involved in this.
Yeah.
Okay. And this affects also the culture.
Yeah.
I think that if we get rid of corruption, which is very difficult, corruption is, in my opinion, is one of the major issues that needs to be addressed, then we can start dealing with equality, diversity, inclusion. Okay.
Yeah.
The more the more inclusive the leadership, the global leadership becomes, I think the more progress we're making towards that direction.
Yeah, when you say inclusive in terms of global leadership, can you expand a little on that? Because I see it in different countries. I've seen it in the country where I come from, and I've seen it here as well. Sometimes it just looks like people are satisfying a quota that we're going to have someone of this color and someone of this religion and someone of this sexual orientation, and we're going to put them all together in a group, and we're going to say, look, we've got all sorts of different people here, therefore we are inclusive and we are in support of equality. Meanwhile, it's just a show, and it's not actually real. It's some experiences that I've taken away from certain things. If let's take this hypothetical situation where, Dr. Maria, you are in charge, right, for the next week of global culture. You have 3 things that you need to do to accomplish in that week. What would you do?
Include everyone in decision, or put, using just objective criteria to put things and people in charge. Okay. I wouldn't take the lead because there are people who are far more capable than me. Okay. And definitely we need to look beyond all these cliche like sexual orientation, as you said, religion, skin color. And apparently I challenged one of my previous clients very openly in how they call it, they call it something, roadmap. Yeah, a meeting. It was organization-wide. And I told them, just have a look. How many people of other color than the majority are included in your board of directors, in the senior leadership team? Okay. In every department. Just tell us about the ratio.
Yeah.
And then tell me about people with disabilities. Tell me about people with, no, I wouldn't use sexual orientation because it's something very sensitive and I would never use it. Even with, let's say, other kind of beliefs. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And I cornered them a bit badly, I would say. So, obviously, as you understand, this with this client, the contract didn't go very well. But I don't mind because ever since I've been using it, it has been a very powerful marketing tool for me.
Yeah.
Choose with whom you would like to be and with whom you wouldn't like to be.
Yeah.
Who you would like to become and who you would not like to become.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So I would include everyone or to give the opportunity to everyone to take a leadership role. And believe me, everyone can contribute
Yeah.
to a team.
I'm a firm believer in that. In my leadership style, I combine different things, democratic leadership, transformational leadership, and I do my best to be situational about it. It just depends on what's happening at the time because one size doesn't fit all. In your leadership, you are a business owner, self-employed, Maria, with a medical background and building your client base. Tell us a bit about your business and what that's doing in terms of game changing.
Well, I first of all, since I came to the UK, I realized that I have completely different objectives compared to my colleagues of the same profession, of the same field of expertise, and I realized that the horizons are, endless
Mm,
in my field of expertise. However, people here were quite more conservative, I would say, equally skillful and maybe more skillful and more experienced than me back at the time. But I was trying to raise awareness. I remember to my manager. No, she's not in, she's not amongst us. Uh, well, I think that the potentials of our specialty are limitless.
mm,
And I would like to consider somebody, if somebody could help me to expand my activities globally, or
yeah,
at least out of the UK,
yeah,
just to start with.
yeah,
And she was telling me that, oh, it's so difficult because the needs, of course, the needs will always be very high in this country.
yeah,
But since I have the potential, since I have the knowledge, since I have the experience, I have the background and I have the qualifications, being multilingual as well, and having lived in many cultures, okay, in countries. I don't see why it's not feasible.
yeah,
And this is also linked to cultural constraints, okay. So for me, it was a must to build my qualifications, to build my training activities to that point and to that direction that would open, the doors
yeah,
to other businesses, continents, countries. And apparently, we have come now to the point that I have clients in 4 different continents. And believe me, their compliance with health and safety, occupational health, they have amazing leadership teams and they thrive. It's not easy, but
yeah,
it's doable.
yeah,
It's doable because it doesn't mean that whenever I'm joining a team, everyone will do whatever I suggest because I advise at the end of the day. I'm not there to order them.
yeah.
Okay. And but they are doing it and they are thriving. And
That's
I'm
brilliant.
very proud to see it happening.
That's absolutely brilliant. You've mentioned so many different things in this podcast interview, Maria. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. Things like having, changing your environment. You had a difficult environment to work in and realize that, despite the fact that you are willing to challenge things and set boundaries, sometimes the amount of energy required to do that is, it's not worth anybody's while. And so you've changed your environment. And in changing your environment, you've had a lot more success. You've also sound like you've been committed to continuously developing yourself in terms of your capabilities and your skills so that you can take, a lot, you can take quality, you can take some game-changing activities to people that you work with as partners or as clients or whatever the case is. And, as a fellow entrepreneur, I can appreciate the amount of effort that you will have put in to make that happen because it takes a spirit of resilience, like you mentioned earlier. It certainly does take that to be an entrepreneur and run your own business, especially to take it globally. Doing it in the UK is one difficult thing on its own, but to be able to take it outside of the borders and go to 4 different continents, that is certainly a massive accomplishment. So we've got about 30 seconds remaining. What I will do at the end of it is I'll put all your contact details on the screen so that people can get in touch with you and we can help you grow your business. So everyone who's been out there listening to this and the people watching this podcast, please like, share and subscribe.
Your customers love ordering flowers online to gift to their loved ones. With your very own app, they will be able to experience full m-commerce shopping, which makes purchasing flowers online easier than ever. When buying flowers online, imagery is vital in driving sales. The gallery allows customers to view images using Apple's Cover Flow style navigation. As a florist, just think how exciting it is to be able to create as many galleries as you need to showcase your products. Each gallery will have its own tab, name and icon within the app, making it easy and simple for your valued customers to browse to their heart's content.